The envelope slipped from Hadley's fingers, tumbling into the Mississippi mud like a confession she could no longer hold. "You came back," Marlowe whispered from the shadows of the pecan orchard, her voice a ghost that sliced through the humid night air, carrying the weight of 10 years unspoken. In that instant, Hadley knew the reunion was a lie. They had never truly parted, only pretended the world between them had not cracked wide open. Hadley Whittaker had driven the 4 hours from New Orleans under a sky bruised with storm clouds, the kind that hung low over Louisiana like unkept secrets. The invitation to the Monroe High School 10th reunion had arrived weeks ago, tucked into her mailbox amid bills and invitations to gallery openings she no longer attended. She had almost tossed it aside, the cream cardstock feeling too fragile for the memories it stirred. But something, curiosity, perhaps, or the ache of a life half-lived, had pulled her onto Interstate 20, windows down, letting the bayou breeze whip through her hair as if it could erase the years. Monroe was a town of faded glories, where shotgun houses lined streets named for forgotten Confederate generals, and the Washita River whispered promises it never kept. Hadley had left at 18, fleeing the suffocating embrace of her family's expectations, her father's law firm, her mother's garden club luncheons, the unspoken rule that Whittaker women married well and smiled through it all. In the city, she had built something real, a loft apartment overlooking the French Quarter, a career curating exhibits at the Ogden Museum, lovers who came and went like jazz notes. Freedom, she called it. But freedom tasted hollow on nights when the saxophone wailed too close to the bone. The reunion was held at the Old Elks Lodge on Desiard Street, its brick facade cracked like the smiles of the classmates who greeted her. Hadley Whittaker. "As I live and breathe," drawled Tommy Hargrove, his belly straining against a polo shirt embroidered with his daddy's oil company logo. He pulled her into a hug that smelled of bourbon and regret, his wife hovering behind like a shadow. She nodded through the small talk, the questions about her city life laced with the old Monroe judgment, too bold, too alone, too something they couldn't name. But then she saw Marlowe. Across the crowded hall, amid the sizzle of crawfish boils and the twang of a cover band playing Sweet Home Alabama, Marlowe stood by the punch bowl, her laugh cutting through the noise like a blade. She hadn't changed. Not in the ways that mattered, hair still falling in loose waves the color of river silt, eyes green as the kudzu that choked the backroads. Only the lines around her mouth spoke of time, of choices carved deep. Hadley froze, her champagne flute halfway to her lips. Marlowe Ellis, now Marlowe Thibodeau, if the name tag was to be believed, had been her everything once. Senior year. In the hidden hollows of the Chenier break, they had stolen moments that felt eternal, hands intertwined under star-pricked skies, whispers of futures unbound by the town's Bible Belt grip. But Marlowe's father, a mill worker with fists like hickory knots, had found the letters. The bruises had followed, then the exile. Hadley to Tulane on a full ride, Marlowe to a hasty marriage with Beau Thibodeau, the golden boy of the First Baptist choir. Their eyes met, and the room tilted. Marlowe excused herself from a cluster of women cooing over her toddler's photos, weaving through the crowd with the grace of someone who had learned to navigate minefields. "Hadley," she said, voice low, as if saying the name aloud might summon thunder. Close. Hadley could see the faint scar above her eyebrow, a remnant from a childhood fall, or was it from that night her father raged, "You look good," Hadley managed, hating how the words fell flat. Marlowe's hand brushed hers in passing, a spark that ignited the dry tinder of memory. They talked then, halting at first, about the safe things, Hadley's exhibits on Delta blues artists, Marlowe's job at the library, how Beau's construction firm was booming with the new casino developments. But beneath it, the current pulled strong, the what-ifs, the why-nots. As the night wore on, the band struck up a slow waltz, and couples shuffled onto the scuffed dance floor. Tommy pulled his wife close. Others swayed with the awkwardness of middle age. Marlowe tilted her head. "Dance with me." It was half question, half dare. Hadley's heart hammered. Here, in this hall where half the town gossiped over sweet tea, it was madness. But she nodded, letting Marlowe lead her to the edge of the floor, their steps tentative, bodies inches apart. The song ended too soon, but neither moved away. "I need air," Marlowe said, her fingers lingering on Hadley's arm. They slipped out a side door into the alley, the humid night wrapping around them like a lover's arms. Crickets chorused from the overgrown lots, and distant thunder rumbled over the river. "I've thought about you," Marlowe confessed, leaning against the brick wall, her silhouette silvered by the street lamp. "Every damn day." Hadley swallowed the lump in her throat. "Me too. But life. It happens." Lies. Both knew. Life had been a series of detours, each one widening the chasm. Marlowe's marriage. Her son little Elias with his father's dimpled chin. Hadley's string of relationships that never rooted. Women who saw her fire but not the frost beneath. They walked then, aimless, down to Syard toward the riverfront, the reunion's laughter fading behind them. Marlowe spoke of the small tyrannies, Beau's temper when the bills piled up, the church lady's whispers about her unladylike ways, the way motherhood had anchored her even as it drowned her dreams. Hadley listened, the words uncoiling something tight in her chest. In turn, she admitted the loneliness of success, the empty gallery closings, the family holidays where her parents' eyes slid past her ringless hand. The riverwalk was deserted, the water black and sluggish under the moon. They sat on a bench scarred with initials from lovers long gone, shoulders brushing. "What if we hadn't stopped?" Marlowe asked, voice barely above the lap of waves. Hadley's hand found hers, fingers lacing as if no time had passed. The touch was electric, a bridge across the years. "I don't know," Hadley whispered. But she did. In that moment, with the town's lights twinkling like judgmental stars, she knew they had never stopped. The kiss came unbidden, Marlowe's lips soft and urgent against hers, tasting of punch and salt and home. It was a reclamation, fierce and tender, hands cupping faces as if to memorize the shape of forgiveness. They broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed together. "My place is just across the bridge," Marlowe said, eyes searching Hadley's for permission or absolution. The invitation hung between them, heavy with consequence. Hadley thought of the drive back to New Orleans tomorrow, of the life waiting like a half-finished canvas. She nodded. Marlowe's trailer sat on the outskirts of West Monroe, a single wide with geranium pots wilting in the heat and a swing set rusted from disuse. Elias was with Beau's mother for the night, the silence inside vast and expectant. They moved through the dim kitchen like thieves, shedding coats and inhibitions, the air thick with the scent of magnolias drifting through the screen door. In the bedroom, lit only by a bedside lamp's amber glow, they undressed slowly, reverently, as if unwrapping fragile artifacts. No words now, only the language of skin and sigh, bodies remembering paths long overgrown. Marlowe's touch was a map of rediscovery, fingers tracing collarbones, lips mapping the curve of hips, each caress a defiance of the walls the world had built. Hadley surrendered to it, the ache of wanting met at last, waves of release crashing through her like a levee breaking. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets that smelled of laundry soap and longing. Marlowe's head on Hadley's chest, heartbeat a steady drum. "This changes nothing," Marlowe murmured. But her voice cracked, betraying the untruth. Hadley stroked her hair, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. "Changed everything." In the quiet, doubts crept in. Beau's truck in the driveway by dawn. The town's eyes that missed nothing. The chasm of their lives. Sleep came fitful. Dreams laced with shadows, her father's stern face. Marlowe's bruises blooming like ink. When Hadley woke to the first light filtering through thin curtains, Marlowe was already in the kitchen. Coffee brewing. Her movements efficient. Armored. "Elias will be home soon," she said, not meeting Hadley's eyes. The words landed like stones. They parted at the door with a hug too tight, too brief. "Drive safe," Marlowe said. And then, softer, "Thank you." Hadley nodded, throat closing around goodbye. As she pulled onto the highway, the trailer shrinking in her rear view, the night replayed in fragments. The kiss, the surrender, the fragile piece of being seen. Back in New Orleans, the loft felt cavernous, the Mississippi's roar through her window a mocking echo. Hadley unpacked mechanically, the reunions program fluttering to the floor, Marlowe's photo smiling from the committee list. She poured a glass of wine, sank onto the couch, and let the tears come. Not for loss, but for the truth unearthed. Love was not the tidy narratives of her exhibits, the sanctioned unions her family praised. It was this forbidden, a force that reshaped the soul against the grain of the world. Days blurred into weeks. Hadley threw herself into work, curating a show on Southern outcasts, writers, musicians, lovers who defied the drawl of convention. But Marlowe's ghost lingered in every brushstroke, every late-night scroll through social media glimpses. A family picnic, Marlowe's laugh captured mid-frame, Elias on her hip. Jealousy twisted, sharp as Spanish moss thorns. Was it regret or rage, at Beau's oblivious claim? At the town that had scripted their endings? Then the call came. Late October. Leaves turning the bayous to fire. Marlowe's voice, strained through static. "I left him." The words hung. A detonation. Beau had found a note, not of their night, but of Marlowe's unraveling. The confessions of a life half-lived. The fight had been biblical, shouts echoing through the trailer. His hands raised not in violence but in plea. The church elders summoned like a jury. She had packed a bag, driven to her sister's in Shreveport, Elias in tow. "I can't do it anymore," Marlowe said, the line crackling with unshed sobs. The pretending. For him. For them. For me. Hadley gripped the phone. Heart pounding. "Come here," she said. The invitation slipping free like that envelope in the mud. "Just come." Marlowe arrived 2 days later. The old station wagon rattling into Hadley's building lot. Dust from the road still clinging to its undercarriage. Elias tumbled out, wide-eyed at the city skyline, clutching a stuffed alligator. Marlowe followed, weary but unbroken, duffel slung over her shoulder. They embraced on the sidewalk, Hadley's arms fierce around her, Elias watching with the solemnity of the very young. The loft became a makeshift haven. Hadley cleared space in the spare room for Elias's crib, stocked the fridge with juice boxes and goldfish crackers. Mornings were chaos, cartoons blaring, coffee spilling as Marlowe chased her son around the island counter. Afternoons, while Elias napped at the neighbor's, a retired teacher with a menagerie of cats, Hadley and Marlowe walked Jackson Square, hands brushing in the crowd, stealing kisses amid street performers' fiddles. It was not seamless. Marlowe's guilt gnawed. Phone calls from Beau pleading reconciliation. Voicemails thick with scripture and sorrow. "He's the father of my child," she'd say, pacing the balcony, cigarette trembling between fingers she swore she'd quit. Hadley understood. The pull of roots deep as cypress knees. Her own family had caught wind through the grapevine, her mother's texts laced with concern, her father's silence a judgment louder than words. Yet in the nights, when the city hummed below and Elias slept sound, they found solace. Marlowe's body against hers was a vow renewed, slow and deliberate, mapping scars both seen and unseen. "I love you," Hadley whispered once, the words escaping like breath held too long. Marlowe stilled, then pressed closer. "I know. God help me. I do too." Winter crept in, the river misting cold. Elias adapted, his drawl softening with city slang, pointing at barges with unbridled awe. Marlowe enrolled in night classes at Delgado Community, literature courses that lit her eyes like embers. Hadley watched her bloom, the library clerk shedding her skin for something bolder, a poet, perhaps, or a teacher unbound by Monroe's gaze. But the past is a patient hunter. Christmas Eve. A knock shattered the quiet. Beau stood on the threshold, snow-dusted from the unseasonal flurry, eyes red-rimmed. Elias squealed, launching into his arms, and the world fractured. Marlowe froze in the doorway, torn between the man who had anchored her and the woman who set her adrift. He had driven through the night, Beau said, voice rough as gravel. The church had prayed. His mother had wept, the town buzzed with scandal. "Come home, Marlowe. We can fix this." For him, he nodded at Elias, who buried his face in his father's neck. Hadley's stomach knotted, the room shrinking. Marlowe knelt, cupping her son's face. "Mama loves you, sweet boy." "Always." Then to Beau, steel in her spine, "I can't." "Not like before." The words landed, and Beau's face crumpled, not in anger, but devastation. He glanced at Hadley then, truly saw her for the first time, the pieces slotting into place. "You," he said, low and bitter. All this time, Elias began to cry, sensing the rift. Bo scooped him up, backing toward the door. "I'll fight for him. For us." The threat hung, veiled in paternal righteousness. Marlowe followed them down, pleading in whispers. But the wagon peeled away into the night, taillights blurring through tears. She returned hollowed, collapsing onto the couch. Hadley held her through the sobs, the keening that shook the walls. "What have I done?" Marlowe gasped. Hadley rocked her, murmuring nonsense comforts. In the morning, lawyers were called, custody papers drafted, the machinery of division grinding to life. The new year dawned jagged. Court dates loomed in Washita Parish, affidavits sworn by deacons attesting to Marlowe's instability. Bo's family circled, wagons tight, painting her as the villain in a morality play. Hadley flew to depositions, her city polish clashing with the courtroom's wood-paneled piety. Whispers followed, unnatural, selfish, the ruin of a good Christian home. Through it, their love hardened, tempered in fire. Evenings, with Elias visiting under supervised eyes, they read to him from picture books, voices steady as anchors. Marlowe wrote, poems scrawled on napkins, verses of breaking and mending. Hadley hung them on the fridge, beside Elias's finger paintings, a gallery of their fragile empire. Spring brought verdicts, joint custody, a fragile truce. Bo remarried by summer, to a deacon's daughter with a nursery ready. Marlowe watched from afar, the sting dulling to ache. She graduated with honors, landed a job at a Baton Rouge bookstore, her world expanding like kudzu in reverse. Hadley proposed on a whim, one August evening on the levee. A simple band of river pearls slipped onto Marlowe's finger. "Not to own you," she said, "but to walk with." Marlowe laughed through tears, yes blooming on her lips. They moved to a cottage in Gentilly, yard fenced for Elias's romps, windows open to jazz parades. The town of Monroe faded to a postcard memory, its judgments echoes in the wind. Love, Hadley learned, was not the fairy tales of her youth, knights in veils and forever unscarred. It was this, the daily defiance, the quiet revolutions of two women choosing each other over the script. Years later, at a gallery opening in the quarter, Hadley unveiled a piece, two figures entwined in magnolia shade, shadows long but hands clasped tight. Marlowe stood beside her, Elias now lanky and questioning, asking why the painting looked like them. "Because," Hadley said, squeezing her hand, "it's our story. The real one." And in that moment, amid the murmur of admirers and the clink of glasses, Hadley knew the night had not changed everything about love. It had revealed what was always true, that love, in its deepest cut, was the courage to rewrite the ending society denied. The summer heat clung to Monroe like a fever dream, even as Hadley steered her rental car back toward the river town 3 months after that first reunion fracture. She had told herself it was for work, a consultation on a historical marker for the Chenault Museum, something innocuous to justify the pull. But the truth uncoiled in her gut like Spanish moss. Marlowe. The nights in New Orleans had stretched thin, her loft a echo chamber of what if, each creak of the floorboards a reminder of empty space. Marlowe's call had come unbidden. A voicemail left at dawn. "I can't stop thinking about that night." It was a mistake. Or maybe the only honest thing I've done. Call me. Hadley hadn't. Instead, she replayed it. The husk of Marlowe's voice laced with the static of distance and doubt. Now, with the museum meeting wrapped early, she found herself on Desillard Street. Parking lot empty save for the ghost of that alley kiss. The library where Marlowe worked was a squat brick building, its windows framed by azaleas gone leggy in the heat. Hadley lingered outside, heart thudding against her ribs like a trapped bird. What was she doing here? Chasing phantoms, risking the fragile peace of her city life for a woman shackled by vows and vows unspoken. But the door swung open before she could flee, and there was Marlowe, arms laden with returns, her face lighting in shock that bloomed to something warmer. Hadley. The name was a exhale, books tumbling to the counter as she rounded it. They stood inches apart, the scent of old paper and Marlowe's vanilla lotion bridging the gap. What are you? Passing through, Hadley lied. Then softer. Couldn't stay away. Marlowe's eyes searched hers, the green depths swirling with the same storm Hadley felt. The patron shuffled in, breaking the spell. But Marlowe's hand grazed Hadley's in passing, a promise. Her shift ended at 4, and they walked to a diner off the square. 4 mica tables sticky with grease, the jukebox crooning Patsy Cline. Over po' and iced tea. The words spilled, Marlowe's marriage fraying at the edges, Beau's late nights at the site masking affairs with subcontractors' wives, Hadley's exhibits praised in the Times-Picayune but her heart adrift, lovers fleeing her intensity like ships from a squall. I thought success would fill it, Hadley admitted, picking at her fries. But it's you. Always has been. Marlowe reached across, thumb tracing Hadley's knuckles. Beau knows something's off. He asked if there's someone. I said no. The lie hung heavy. A chain. They left as dusk fell, driving to the break in silence. The dirt road rutted from summer rains. The orchard was wilder now. Pecans scattered like spent shells, the air thick with cicada hum. They spread a blanket under the oldest tree, the one they had claimed as theirs, bark etched with H+M in hasty knife strokes. Wine from a thermos, stories traded like currency, Marlowe's secret poetry journal, Hadley's sketch of the trailer that night. Laughter came first, then quiet, then the inevitable pull. Marlowe's lips found Hadley's throat, hands roaming with the urgency of borrowed time. They made love there, earth cool beneath, stars wheeling overhead, each gasp a rebellion against the dawn that would come. After, wrapped in the blanket, Marlowe traced patterns on Hadley's arm. I dream of leaving. Taking Elias. Starting over. But the fear choked her. The what-ifs of custody battles. Small-town scorn. Hadley held her closer. You're stronger than you know. But doubt seated in her own chest. Could she be the anchor? Or just another wave? The affair bloomed in stolen fragments. Weekends when Beau hunted deer. Hadley slipping into Monroe like a shadow. Their bodies a sanctuary. Elias met her as Aunt Hadley, oblivious. His chubby hands offering drawings of alligators in tutus. Marlowe glowed in those hours, her laughter free. But the guilt shadowed her eyes. A bruise that deepened. Fall arrived with a vengeance. Hurricanes churning in the Gulf. Mirrors of the turmoil brewing. Beau confronted Marlowe one night after a church supper, his voice rising over the hum of the AC unit. Who's she? Marlo? That fancy friend from the reunion. She denied it, tears hot on her cheeks. But the seed was planted. Days later, he rifled her phone while she shopped, finding texts from Hadley, innocent on surface, but laced with intimacy. Miss your laugh. Come to the city soon. The explosion came via voicemail. Beau's rage a thunderclap. You think you can throw us away for some dyke from uptown? I'll take the boy. See how your love holds up in court. Marlo called Hadley sobbing. The trailer a cage closing in. He knows. Got Hadley. He knows everything. Hadley drove through the night, rain lashing the windshield, arriving to find Marlo packing boxes in a frenzy, Elias wailing from his playpen. We leave now, Hadley said, taking charge, loading the car with essentials, toothbrushes, favorite blankets, the poetry journal clutched like a talisman. They fled to New Orleans, the city lights a blurry refuge, checking into a motel off Canal until Hadley's loft could be fortified. The first week was siege. Beau's calls relentless. Lawyers consulted via speakerphone. Marlo paced, chain smoking on the balcony, her world reduced to takeout and terror. I destroyed us, she whispered one night, curled fetal on the bed. Hadley drew her close, bodies aligning in comfort more than passion. You saved us. That's the difference. Elias adjusted with toddler resilience, charmed by the loft's exposed beams and the streetcar's clang. Hadley took leave from the museum, ferrying him to Parks while Marlo slept off exhaustion. In quiet moments, they rebuilt, grocery runs turning to hand-holding in aisles, coffee dates where Marlo read aloud from her poems, voice steadying. But Beau was not done. He filed for emergency custody, citing Marlo's abandonment and immoral influences. The hearing was set in Monroe, a return to the lion's den. They drove back together, Elias strapped in the back, singing off-key to radio hymns. The courthouse loomed, columns like teeth, the air ripe with magnolia and malice. Inside, the judge, a silver-haired relic with a bow tie, eyed them coolly. Beau sat ramrod, his new lawyer a shark in seersucker. Witnesses paraded. Marlo's sister, tearful about family unity, a pastor decrying modern confusions. Hadley testified last, voice level as she described the love, not the labels, the stability she offered, the home they built. It's not about sin, she said. It's about what's right for that little boy. The gavel fell weeks later. Temporary joint, with Marlo primary if she relocated nearer. Relief washed. Bittersweet. Beau appealed, but the fight forged them. Back in the city, Marlo burned her old rings in a backyard fire pit, ashes scattering like freed birds. To new beginnings, she toasted, kissing Hadley under the smoke-wreathed moon. Winter softened their edges. Elias started preschool, his artwork flooding the fridge. Marlo volunteered at a women's shelter, channeling her scars into stories for survivors. Hadley curated a show on queer Southern icons, Billie Holiday's Grit, Audre Lorde's Fire, Marlo opening night. Head high, hand in Hadley's. Yet cracks spidered. Beau's visits turned tense, his glares at Hadley knives of resentment. One pickup. He cornered her in the lot. You stole my family. She met his eyes. She chose it. He laughed. Hollow. Choices have costs. The cost came in spring. A custody reversal on a technicality. Marlowe's address unverified. Elias went to Beau full-time. The trailer repopulate. Marlowe shattered. Days in bed. The light dimmed. Hadley carried them. Cooking meals uneaten. Holding vigils by the window. "We'll fight," she vowed. But doubt crept. Was love enough against the tide? In the depths. Marlowe rose. She lawyered up fiercer. Documented Beau's rages. Rallied supporters from the shelter. The appeals dragged. But their bond deepened nights of strategy sessions turning to slow dances in the kitchen. Reaffirming the why. Summer solstice. Victory. Elias returned. The judge swayed by evidence of stability. Beau signed away. Defeated. Moving to Texas for work. Marlowe sobbed in Hadley's arms. Joy laced with grief. "It's over," she breathed. Hadley kissed her temple. "It's ours now." They planted a garden that fall. Tiny hands in soil. Roots taking hold. Love, Hadley realized, was not the blaze of that reunion night, but the steady burn, the choice. Daily. To tend the flame against the wind. The autumn leaves and gently turned the streets to amber veins, pulsing with the life Hadley and Marlowe had clawed from the wreckage. Elias chased fireflies in the yard. His laughter a bomb. But the shadows lingered. Beau's absence a void filled with court orders and supervised exchanges. Marlowe woke some nights thrashing from dreams of loss. Her body curling into Hadley's like a fern seeking light. "What if they take him again?" she'd murmur. Voice raw. Hadley would trace the curve of her spine, whispering litanies of permanence. But the fear was a vine, twisting deeper. Hadley's work at the museum surged. A commission for the Louisiana Arts Festival demanding late nights in the studio. Sketches piled. Women in magnolia crowns. Hands outstretched across divides. Marlowe watched sometimes, chin on knee. Her own poems evolving, verses of fracture and forge. Read aloud in the lamplight. "You're my muse," Hadley teased one evening. Charcoal-smudged fingers brushing Marlowe's cheek. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The weight of motherhood, of rebuilding, pressed heavy. A letter arrived mid-October. Postmarked Monroe. Her parents. Formal script inviting them to Thanksgiving. "Family is family," it read. Veiled barbs about your situation, and Elias's need for proper influences. Hadley crumpled it. But Marlowe smoothed it flat. "We should go. Show them we're not hiding." The idea terrified. Facing the Whitakers' polished dining room. The unspoken verdicts over turkey and yams. But Marlowe was right. Surrender was not in their blood. The drive north was tense. Elias chattering about pumpkin pies. Oblivious. Monroe greeted with crisp air and the river's brassy tang. The Whitaker home loomed on Forsyth Avenue. Columns grand as judgments. Lawn manicured to submission. Her father, Harlan, greeted them at the door. Handshake firm. Eyes sliding past Marlowe to Elias. "Grandson," he boomed, scooping the boy up. Her mother, Lydia, air-kissed cheeks. Her smile a tight wire. "Hadley, dear. You've changed." Dinner was a minefield. Silver gleaming under chandelier glow. Conversation skirting edges. Harlan quizzed Marlowe on her arrangements. Voice paternal thunder. Divorce is messy business. But blood's thicker. Marlowe held steady. Fork poised. We've made it work, sir. For Elias. Lydia pivoted to safer ground, garden club gossip. The new DA's wife, but her glances at their linked hands under the table spoke volumes. After pie. As rain pattered the conservatory panes, Lydia pulled Hadley aside. This phase is not sustainable. Think of the family name. Hadley bristled. Heat rising. It's not a phase, Mother. It's my life. Lydia's eyes softened. Almost. Love's fine, darling. But in our world, it comes with rules. Marlowe overheard. Slipping away to the porch with Elias, rocking him through a sudden storm. Hadley found them there. Thunder rumbling distant. I'm sorry, she said. Kneeling. Marlowe cupped her face. Don't be. We faced it. That's victory. They drove back under clearing skies. The confrontation a scar. Tender but healing. Winter holidays fractured further. Beau requested Elias for Christmas. A concession in their truce. The loft echoed empty. Tinsel mocking from the tree. Marlowe decorated anyway. Strings of lights a defiant glow. They volunteered at the shelter. Serving meals to women with eyes like Marlowe's, haunted. Hopeful. One night, a resident shared her story. Escaped marriage. Queer awakening and hiding. Marlowe listened. Then spoke their truth. Voice gaining strength. Hadley watched. Pride swelling. This was love's alchemy turning pain to purpose. New Year brought pivot. Marlowe landed an adjunct position at UNO, teaching creative writing to night students hungry for voice. Her classroom was a converted shotgun house, walls papered in student work. Hadley attended a reading. Marlowe's poems filling the space. We are the river's undercurrent. Unseen but carving stone. Applause thundered. And in the afterglow, they made love on the office desk. Books tumbling like applause. But spring unearthed buried thorns. A package arrived, Beau's. Forwarded from Texas. Elias's old toys. Mingled with photos. One slipped free. Marlowe and Beau's wedding. Her smile strained. Veil like a shroud. Tucked inside. A note. He asks for you. But remember what you broke. Guilt crashed over Marlowe. Wave after wave. She withdrew. Classes skipped. Poems abandoned. Am I selfish? She asked Hadley one dawn. Coffee cold. For wanting this? Hadley pulled her to the mirror. Hands on shoulders. Look. That's a woman who fought for joy. Not selfish, brave. But the doubt festered. Manifesting in distance. Nights on the couch. Scrolls through Beau's social media. Glimpses of Elias at Little League. Dimple flashing. Hadley sought counsel from her own ghosts. A call to her aunt in Baton Rouge. The family's black sheep. Divorced thrice. Unapologetic. Love's a battlefield. Sugar, Aunt Viv drawled. You win by standing ground. Inspired. Hadley planned a getaway. A cabin in the Kisatchie National Forest. Just them. No echoes. The pines whispered secrets as they arrived. Air pine sharp. Lake Mirror still. Elias stayed with a trusted sitter. The first overnight separation. They hiked trails moss-hung. Unpacked baskets of gumbo and grapes. Evenings by the fire. Marlowe unspooled. The bruises from her father. The church's sermons branding her sin. Beau's love a cage gilded with duty. I thought that's all there was, she confessed. Flames dancing in her eyes. Hadley shared her own. The debutante ball where she faked smiles for suitors. The first woman who broke her heart in a dorm room haze. Naked by the hearth. They explored anew slow, deliberate. Bodies a dialogue of forgiveness. Marlowe's fingers mapped Hadley's ribs. Lips following. Eliciting gasps that echoed off logs. You're my freedom, Marlowe breathed. Straddling her. Rhythm building like a crescendo. Release came shared. Shattering. Tears mingling with sweat. Morning swims in the lake. Cool water shocking skin. Washed remnants. Marlowe emerged laughing. Water sheeting off. Declaring, I'm done doubting. Back home. She texted Beau boundaries. Visit scheduled. No manipulations. The response was curt acceptance. A door closing. Summer swelled with momentum. Elias turned 5. Party in the yard with piñata and face paint. Beau arriving civil. Leaving early. Marlowe's book, a chapbook of poems, published by a small press. Launch at a quarter cafe. Hadley emceed. Voice thick. To the woman who taught me love is verb. Not noun. Sold out crowd. Signings till midnight. Then home to celebrate champagne. Elias asleep. Bodies entwined in triumph. Yet autumn circled back. Relentless. Harlan's heart attack struck in September. A summons pulling them to Monroe. Hospital room sterile. Monitors beeping accusations. He rallied weakly. Gripping Hadley's hand. Proud of you, girl. Even if. The ellipsis hung. Unfinished apology. Lydia hovered. Thawing slightly. Baking Marlowe cornbread for the boy. Elias charmed the nurses. Drawing hearts on get-well cards. Harlan's recovery was slow. Forcing confrontations. Over cafeteria coffee. He asked Marlowe point-blank. You make her happy? She met his gaze. Every day. He nodded. Spent. Then that's enough. The concession cracked something in Hadley. Forgiveness. Perhaps. Or just exhaustion. Winter's grip loosened grudgingly. Marlowe's tenure track offer from Uno arrived like manna. Stability etched in contract. They renovated the cottage. Mural in Elias's room. Shelves for books swelling collections. Love settled. Not fireworks but hearth glow mornings tangled. Arguments over dishes dissolving to kisses. One equinox night. Under a harvest moon. Hadley knelt in the garden. Ring of magnolia wood extended. Marry me not for papers. But for us. Marlowe pulled her up. Yes, a vow sealed in dirt and stars. The wedding was small. Quarter courtyard. Elias ringbearer. Aunt Viv officiating with jazz benediction. Vows exchanged. In the face of storms. I choose you. Years wove on. Threads of ordinary extraordinary. Elias questioned orientations in school. Marlowe guiding with stories true. Hadley's exhibits toured. Themes of resilience. Beau fated to co-parent. Remarried peaceably. Monroe became occasional pilgrimage. Harlan's gruff approval's warming. Love, Hadley penned in a dedication, was the quiet revolution, the daily yes to self, to other, against the world's no. And in their home, lights burning late, it thrived. The spring equinox painted gently in tentative greens, dogwoods unfurling like hesitant flags. But beneath the bloom, fissures ran deep as bayou roots. Marlowe's tenure letter had arrived with fanfare. A bottle of Veuve popped on the balcony. Elias toasting with apple juice, but the triumph soured swift. Whispers from UNO colleagues. Sidelong glances in faculty lounges. The divorced mother. The alternative arrangement. Inspiring, one said to her face. The word laced with pity. Marlowe brushed it off in public. But nights found her poring over syllabi till dawn. Armor against inadequacy. Hadley noticed the erosion, the way Marlowe's laughter clipped short. Her touch hesitant as if testing ground. It's nothing, she'd say, waving off concern. But the mirror betrayed. Shadows under eyes. Poems gathering dust. Elias, sensing shifts, clung tighter. Bedtime stories stretching endless. Hadley balanced it all. Museum deadlines crashing like waves. But guilt gnawed. Had her push for the city uprooted more than weeds? May brought catalyst. A student conference in Austin. Marlowe selected to present her chapbook. Go, Hadley urged. Booking the flight. Arranging Elias with Aunt Viv. Recharge. Marlowe departed reluctant, kissing them both lingering at the gate. The text came steady at first, panel acclaim. Barbecue bliss then tapered to silence. Hadley paced the loft. Phone clutched. Elias's questions a litany. When's Mama home? The call shattered midnight. Marlowe. Voice slurred with bar noise and bourbon. I met someone. The words landed like hail. Hadley froze. World tilting. Who? Pause. Static crackling. Doesn't matter. It's easy. No baggage. Laughter. Brittle. God. Hadley. I'm tired of fighting. The line died. And Hadley sank to the floor. Sobs racking silent. Betrayal bloomed. Hot and visceral, not just the act, but the unraveling it implied. All the battles. The courtrooms and porch storms. For this, she replayed their history, the reunion blaze, the custody wars, the garden vows. Had it been illusion? Love a temporary scaffold? Dawn found her hollow. Coffee bitter. Elias woke demanding pancakes. His innocence a knife twist. Mama's adventuring, she lied. Flipping batter. Heart fracturing. Marlowe returned 2 days later. Suitcase thumping the stairs. Face drawn. They faced in the kitchen. Elias napping rare. It was one night, she started. Eyes down. A presenter. We talked shop. Drinks flowed. I was lonely. Hadley. Your world's so big. And I'm. Small town. Hadley finished. Voice steel. Hurt flared to rage. After everything? Boo? The appeals. My family, you throw it for a stranger. Marlowe flinched. Tears spilling. I didn't throw. I slipped. Because sometimes I wake up terrified we'll break under the weight. The argument raged. Words weapons. Hadley's accusations of weakness, Marlowe's of neglect, the late nights, the exhibits that stole her home. Plates clattered. Elias stirred, wailing. They paused, comforting him in tandem, the routine a mocking truce. That night, Marlowe slept on the couch, the space between yawning vast. Days blurred to standoff. Hadley buried in work, curating a show on fractured legacies, irony biting. Marlowe taught mechanically, grading papers by lamplight, avoiding eyes. Elias shuttled between, moods mercurial, tantrums flaring at transitions. Friends circled warily, Aunt Viv mediating over gumbo. Fights forge or fracture. Girls. Choose. Fracture one initial. Marlowe moved to a sublet near campus. Space to think. The cottage echoed. Elias's room a shrine of half-read books. Hadley wandered it ghost-like, touching Marlowe's scarf on the hook, inhaling vanilla fade. Night. She drove the levee, radio crooning lost anthems, tears salting the wheel. Lovesmith crumbled, not eternal flame, but fragile spark, doused by doubt. Elias's questions pierced. Why no mama? Hadley knelt, honest as she could. Grown-ups mess up sometimes. But we fix. He nodded solemn, hugging tight. The boy became bridge joint pickups at preschool. Awkward small talk in parking lots blooming to confessions. I miss us, Marlowe admitted one rainy afternoon. Umbrella shared. Hadley nodded, throat tight. Me too. Reconciliation crept sideways. A poetry slam at the Maple Leaf. Marlowe performing unannounced. Hadley attended incognito. Heart and throat as verses poured. I betrayed the map we drew. Ink running in regret's rain. The crowd hushed. Then erupted. Hadley slipped backstage. Arms open. They cried there. Amid cables and costumes. Forgiveness a flood. Homecoming was tentative. Marlowe's bag unpacked slow. Drawers filled like offerings. They talked till exhaustion, therapy recommended. Sessions booked at a quarter clinic. The counselor. A soft-spoken Creole woman. Unpacked layers. Marlowe's abandonment scars. Hadley's perfectionism mask. Love requires grace, she said. They practiced it. Date night sans Elias, riverboat cruises. Hands laced loose. Summer healed swifter. Family trip to Grand Isle. Cottage by the Gulf. Waves lulling. Elias built sandcastles. Marlowe and Hadley body surfing. Salt-stung kisses stolen midswell. Evenings on the porch. Stars pricking velvet. They renewed. Fingers intertwined. Whispers of futures unscripted. Intimacy reignited slow, baths drawn steamy. Bodies rediscovering rhythms. Laughter mingling with moans. Fall term. Marlowe's classes thrived. Students drawn to her candor. Hadley collaborated on a workshop, blending poetry and visual narrative. Elias started kindergarten. Backpack slung proud. Beau's visits smooth. A barbecue truce where he toasted to co-parenting right. The man had softened. His own divorce humbling. Yet winter tested anew. Lydia's cancer diagnosis landed like frost, breast. Aggressive. Monroe called. Harlan's voice cracking. They went. Elias in tow. The hospital a familiar foe. Lydia weakened, but lucid, pulling Marlowe close. You stayed. Thank you. The words mended old rifts. Vigils shared in beeping quiet. Lydia's passing in January was gentle. Surrounded. The funeral drew Monroe's full gaze, whispers of Hadley's companion, but heads bowed respectful. Harlan cornered them after. Check pressed into Hadley's palm. For the boy. In whatever comes. Acceptance. Gruff. Spring bloomed defiant. Memorial garden planted in Lydia's honor. Iris is her favorite. Marlowe's second book deal. Themes of redemption. Hadley's exhibit toured nationally. Reviews praising visceral humanity. Elias asked about grandmas. Marlowe explaining cycles. They live in us. Growing new things. Anniversary marked with quiet. Picnic under the pecan tree in the yard. Transplanted from Monroe soil. Vows reaffirmed. Rings twisted. To Grace, Hadley toasted. Marlowe leaned in. To us, love. Refined in fire. Emerged tempered, not flawless, but resilient. The betrayal's scar faded to lessen. Trust rebuilt brick by brick. Stronger for the quake. In their bed. Limbs entwined. Hadley traced Marlowe's pulse. We're the story now, she murmured. Marlowe smiled. Sleep soft. The best kind. Summer's haze settled over New Orleans like a fever veil. The air thick with jasmine and the distant thrum of second-line parades. But in the Whitaker Thibodeau cottage, tension simmered unspoken. Marlowe's book tour kicked off with a splash. Readings from Memphis to Mobile. Crowds hungry for her raw verses on queer survival in the Delta. Hadley waved her off at the airport. Elias waving a poster scrawled, "Go Mama." But the goodbye kiss lingered too brief. A premonition neither voiced. The house fell quiet in her absence. Elias's chatter filling voids with kindergarten tales of finger paints and playground packs. Hadley thrived on routine. Museum critiques by morn. Afternoons crafting lesson plans for guest lectures. Yet evenings yawn. Wine glasses duo empty. Her mind wandering to Marlowe's hotel rooms, strangers' applause. Late-night panels blurring to possibility. Trust. That fragile rebuild. Quivered. Texts bridged. Marlowe's selfies amid bayou backdrops. Hadley's snaps of Elias's mud pies. Miss you fierce, one read. Heart emoji trailing. Hadley replied in kind. But doubt's whisper crept. The Austin slip. A ghost not exorcised. A call from Aunt Viv mid-tour. Heard scuttlebutt. Admirer trailing her in Jackson. Just gossip. Share. Hadley's laugh forced. We're solid, but sleep evaded. Dreams tangled in hotel sheets. Marlowe returned sun-kissed. Duffel bursting manuscripts. Launching into Hadley's arms with tales of sold-out nights. They celebrated re-entry. Crawfish boil in the yard. Elias crowned king with bib crown. Neighbors toasting. Laughter flowed. But Hadley's eyes traced Marlowe's. Did the glow stem from spotlight or something shadowed? Bed claimed them eager. Bodies urgent. But climax chased unease. Hadley's release hollow. Weeks wove unease to confrontation. A tour photo surfaced online. Marlowe arm in arm with a fellow poet. A live Austin academic named Riley. Captions winking collaboration sparks. Harmless. Hadley knew Riley's work on feminist poetics. Panels shared. But the image gnawed. Austin's echo. It erupted over dinner. Etouffee steaming. Elias Abed. Who's Riley? Hadley asked, casual as she could. Marlowe's fork paused. Colleague. We jammed post-reading. The tone defensive sparked. Jammed how? Silence stretched. Then Marlowe's sigh. Nothing. Hadley. But if you're asking. Yet. Attraction. Fleeting. I shut it down. The admission detonated. After Austin, you swear fidelity. Then flirt on tour. Voice rising. Hadley's control frayed. Marlowe shoved plate. Flirt? It was a hug. For Christ's sake. You're suffocating me with suspicion. Words escalated. Hadley's litany of sacrifices, family bridges burned, custody trenches dug. Marlowe's retort of autonomy. I'm not your project to fix. Elias's cry pierced from down the hall. Nightmare roused. They converged, soothing in tandem. His small body wedged between. Back in kitchen. Tempers cooled to ash. I love you, Marlowe whispered. Hand extended. Hadley took it. Trembling. Prove it. No more tours alone. The demand hung. Boundary or cage? Marlowe nodded. Weary. For us. Fall semester anchored. But ripples spread. Marlowe's classes delved deeper. Themes of infidelity in literature. Students debating betrayal's redemptions. Hadley audited one. Incognito in back row. Marlowe's voice passionate on forgiveness's cost. Post-class. They walked campus oaks. Leaves crunching confessions. Riley texted. I blocked. Honesty's gift. Bitter. Elias's school play cast him as tree in the giving tree. Rehearsals demanding. Dress rehearsal night. Beau arrived for pickup. Lingering post-curtain. He's thriving, he said to Hadley. Tone neutral. Then lower. Heard about the rough patch. Marlowe deserves steady. The jab landed. Presumption grating. We handle our own, she replied. Steal. He shrugged. Departing. But seed planted. Was Beau circling. Opportunist. Winter holidays loomed fraught. Joint Thanksgiving with Beau's new family in Texas. A custody stipulation. Neutral ground. The drive tensed airways. Elias excited for cousins. Dinner table strained. Beau's wife. Tessa. Gracious with pie. But undercurrents swirled. Beau's glances at Marlowe. Nostalgic? Hadley excused to porch. Smoking rare clove. Jealousy coiling. Marlowe joined. Coat shrugged. He's passed. But Hadley's retort sharp. Then why the looks? Argument brewed low. Voices hiss. Paranoia's poison, Marlowe snapped. Or truth's mirror. Truce for Elias's sake. But fracture widened. Christmas solo and gently. Tree twinkling defiance. Gifts exchanged intimate. Hadley's leather-bound journal for Marlowe's poems. Marlowe's locket with Elias's curl for Hadley. New Year's Eve. They danced in kitchen to Nina Simone. Slow sway mending. Renew. Marlowe asked. Lips brushing ear. Hadley nodded. Vow silent. Spring unearthed deeper rot. Therapy resumed. Sessions peeling to core. Hadley's control born of loss. Parents' disapproval. First love's flight. Marlowe's wanderlust from entrapment. Father's fists. Beau's leash. We project fears, counselor noted. Homework, trust exercises. Date jars of notes. Today. I cherished your. Elias's birthday bridged. Party pirate themed. Beau cooperative. Postcake. He pulled Marlowe aside. Hadley glimpsed from afar. Postures tense. Later. Marlowe confessed. He proposed reconciliation. For Elias. Hadley's world blanked. And, Marlowe fierce, told him no. We're it. Relief crashed. But trust's thread frayed further. Summer storm broke literal. Hurricane barreling Gulf. Evacuation ordered. They fled to Baton Rouge. Aunt Viv's sprawling Victorian haven. Power out. Candles flickered stories, Elias asleep. Adults raw. Marlowe admitted Riley emails. Archived unread. Temptation. Not action. Hadley wept. Rage purging. I can't lose you. Marlowe held. You won't. I'm here. Post-storm return. Cottage waterlogged but standing. Cleanup cathartic. Walls stripped. Rebuilt stronger. Marlowe's sabbatical applied. Joint project proposed. Hadley illustrating her next book. Collaboration healed. Sketches blooming beside verses. Bodies sinking in creative flow. Fall's equinox marked pivot. Riley's wedding invite. Platonic olive branch. Marlowe declined gracefully. Sharing with Hadley. Closed chapter. Pride swelled. Trust regreening. Winter's solstice. They hosted solstice supper friends. Family patchwork. Harlan attended. Cane thumped. Toasting to chosen kin. Laughter genuine. Barriers thinning. Anniversary eve. Under harvest moon redux. Hadley scattered petals garden path. From fracture to whole, she said. Ring renewed. Marlowe knelt reciprocal. Eternal yes. Betrayal's wake receded. Love emerging tempered gold. Not unscarred. But luminous. In dawn's light. Entwine. Hadley whispered. We're unbreakable now. Marlowe smiled. Sure. We always were. The calendar flipped to another Louisiana autumn. Leaves carpeting gently in russet and gold. But the air carried a crisp edge. As if the season itself braced for upheaval. Marlowe's sabbatical bore fruit. A manuscript co-authored with Hadley. Illustrations entwining verses like lovers' limbs. Accepted by a press with national reach. Launch loomed in spring. Promotional whispers building buzz. But success's shadow lengthened. Expectations mounting. Old insecurities stirring. Elias, now 7, navigated second grade with precocious questions. Classmates' taunts about two moms. Playground politics echoing adult divides. Marlowe fielded bedtime debriefs. Voice steady. Families come in all shapes. Like stars. But Hadley's heart clenched at his drawings. Stick figures holding hands. Labeled us versus them. The world intruded. Relentless. Harlan's health faltered again. A stroke sidelining him to rehab in Monroe. They rotated visits. Elias charming therapists with riddles. One afternoon. Harlan gripped Hadley's wrist. Voice slurry but sharp. Brought shame once. Regret it. The confession cracked long-held dam. Tears shared over vending machine coffee. Forgiveness a quiet tide. Marlo witnessed her own peace with the past deepening. Winter's chill deepened divides elsewhere. Beau's Texas life unraveled. Tessa left. Citing his obsession with what was, he relocated back. Apartment in Metairie. Custody bids renewing. Stability for Elias. His lawyer argued in emails. Veiled threats of lifestyle scrutiny. Marlo armored. But sleep fled. Nightmares of courtrooms recurring. Hadley rallied support. Aunt Viv's legal contacts. Shelter allies testifying character. Depositions dragged. Monroe's gaze judgmental anew. Church bulletins omitting their names. Whispers at Elias's recitals. One hearing. Beau's witness, a former co-worker, testified Marlo's instability, citing the Austin indiscretion unearthed in discovery. Hadley testified counter. Voice unwavering. Our home is sanctuary. Not scandal. Gavel fell favorable status quo. With therapy mandated joint. Beau conceded bitter. But a corner turned post-hearing coffee. Tentative. I want what's best for him, he admitted. Marlo nodded. Me too. Truce. Handshake sealed. Fragile bridge. Spring's launch party pulsed in the quarter's literary salon. Gas lamps flickering welcome. Guests mingled academics. Artists. Monroe exiles. Elias circulating with tray of beignets. Dimple disarming. Marlo read from podium. Verses soaring. We are the mend. Not the break. Threads rewoven in dawn's loom. Applause thundered. Hadley beaming from front row. Pride visceral. Post-reading glow. They slipped to Preservation Hall. Jazz weaving through bodies. On the balcony overlooking Bourbon's revelry. Marlo pulled Hadley close. This is ours built. Not borrowed. Kiss sealed. Deep and declarative. World fading. Summer swelled with serendipity. Book tour duo. Hadley presenting visuals. Marlo words. Cities blurring to camaraderie. Elias summer camp. Letters home illustrated with campfires and canoes. One Nashville night. Hotel suite overlooking Cumberland. They celebrated sales milestone champagne chilled. Bodies celebrating languid. Rediscovery in silk sheets. Fall brought Harlan's rally. Enough for a family Seder Whitaker style. With gumbo chaser. He toasted Marlo direct. You make my girl shine. Acceptance full. Roots mending. Elias's questions evolved. Can I have a dad like Beau's friends? Heartache. Handled gentle, books on diverse families. Talks open. Marlo confided fears. Am I enough? Hadley cupped face. More than. We're the constellation. Winter solstice gala at the museum. Hadley's curation on resilient bonds. Marlo's poems epigraphs. Patrons murmured approval. But a donor cornered. Edgy. But marketable. Hadley smiled steel. Truth always is. New Year's dawn. Levee walk. Fog rolling river. Elias ahead. Skipping stones. Marlo paused. Ring glinting. Adopt him with me. Full circle. Hadley's yes choked. Paperwork launched. Spring's renewal crested. Adoption hearing. Judge warm. Elias Whitaker Thibodeau official. Family forged legal. Celebration courtyard. Jazz trio. Aunt Viv crowing. Summer's heat peaked with crisis averted. Beau's relapse to old rages. Contained by intervention. Boundaries reinforced. He sought therapy. Credit to growth. Fall harvest. Garden bountiful, pears from the tree. Pies baked communal. Elias's school project. Family tree. Branches sprawling inclusive. Winter's eve. Snow rare dusting quarter. Cottage aglow. Stories swapped heartside. Hadley traced Marlowe's laugh lines. 10 years from that reunion. Marlowe leaned. Worth every scar. Anniversaries layered. Reunion eve marked with drive to Monroe. Orchard picnic, blanket spread. Wine shared. Ghosts laid. You changed everything, Hadley whispered. Marlowe smiled. We did. Elias's 10th birthday. Decade marker. Party sprawling. Beau attending cordial. Tessa absent but mentioned fond. Boy's speech. My mom's taught me love's the strongest magic. Years cascaded. Marlowe's professorship tenured. Hadley's directorship ascended. Elias teen tall. Questioning identity fluid, support unwavering. Pride parades march together. Beau found peace remarried. Visits holiday warm. Harlan past gentle. Legacy letters to each. Love fierce. Regret less. Old age crept graceful. Silver threading hair. Hands veined but clasped. Retirement porch. Rocking chairs synced. What now? Marlowe mused. Sunset gilding. Hadley squeezed. This us. Always. Elias. Grown. Visited with partner, echo of beginnings. You showed me courage, he said. They beamed. Cycle complete. Love's arc bent not broke. From reunion spark to enduring flame. Defying scripts. Scripting anew. In final dusk. Entwine. Hadley breathed. Believed wrong once. Now I know. Marlowe kissed brow. Eternal. Then. Not terminus but continuation. Whispers in wind. Roots deep as time.